For me, supply chain was transactional. I always felt, how difficult can it be? How difficult can factories be? I'm already dropping orders onto the factory. I'm dropping bills of material, dropping routings. How difficult can it be? But that opened up a whole new world for me when I started looking at factories and machines and how they're connected and what happens on the shop floor.
Welcome to Coffee with Mr. IoT, a weekly chat with Robert Schmidt, Deloitte's chief futurist, and the builders, dreamers, founders, and wild children of the IoT universe. This podcast can also be viewed on the Coffee with Mr. IoT YouTube channel.
Hello and welcome to Coffee with Mr. IoT. My name is Robert Schmidt. I'm Deloitte's chief IoT technologist, also known as Mr. IoT. Today, my guest on the show is Subrata Roy, a colleague and partner in crime of mine. We work together in IoT. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Robert. Thanks for having me here.
It's great to have you. I've actually invited you, I don't know how many months. It's great to finally get together here. I had to come to the Amazon reInvent conference to finally catch you.
Oh,
it's good to have you.
It's hard with our travels and everything, but I appreciate this.
So we had reInvent here in Vegas. How's the show? Tell me about it. What have you seen? What are we doing here?
It's awesome. I mean, the show is awesome. Amazon just released a whole bunch of products yesterday, services yesterday. As far as what Deloitte is doing, I mean, we are all over the place. We're presenting with clients. We are doing a bunch of demos, executive conversations and discussions, meeting with Amazon. It's vibrant. It's just a happening place. Personally, I've been focused on smart factories,
Smart Factory Fabric, actually.
Smart Factory Fabric.
What is it, SFF or SF2? I heard there is sort of like confusion now.
Well, we would like to see now. It feels like even the Deloitte side is calling it SF2.
I like that better, by the way.
Okay,
not that it matters what I think, but I'm
no,
just saying.
I liked it too, but there was a few people that were skeptical. Let's not make it so difficult acronym people won't understand. But I think we'll stay with SF2 now.
Excellent. I actually met with your client and we had a great interview. Nice. What an interesting project you're working on.
Yes, it is really interesting to see how we light up the factory, how we find things that clients cannot find on the shop floor. So it's interesting.
What did you find? Give us some examples you can't talk about.
I can talk about this. So if you think of the factory, as you know, it's like miles and miles long in this aerospace and defense, and
it's literally miles long?
It is literally miles long, and they have various different machining areas, machines where they put them for bringing the whole fuselages together. And quite often they move the panels from one end to the other, and it goes into the wrong machine, or it stays in a staging area that is not near a machine, and then the operator and the machines are all waiting for the panels to show up. And that's what I mean by missing. It's not that someone can carry a panel off the shop floor, but it's like you don't have the right material at the right time. So our solution actually tags all those panels using RFID technology. So that has tremendously helped them with their asset efficiency and their productivity.
Trace and track, a big topic. So you put RFID tags on each panel. Is that how it works?
Yeah, we put RFID tags on each panel.
How big are they?
So they are really this little small strips of things, RFID tags we put on each panel. It goes in the kitting area as they're bringing all the panels together. And then it comes out at the very end when they're doing quality inspection. And then
so they take it off when they quality inspect.
And,
okay.
And the machines are machines have the antennas on them mounted, so it just tracks the panel as it moves through the shop floor.
I always feel like we're sort of like, there was an RFID hangover for a while, and we've really come out on the other side on that. So we've really found some meaningful ways to use RFID tags and track pieces and so forth.
Yeah, and it's intriguing how complex these projects could be. On paper, it should be as simple as like AWS has RFID tags on our badges, right, on our lanyards, so they can track. But it's so, just so many other considerations go in. Hey, if I can put an active RFID tag, then it bounces off metal signals. If I have too many panels stacked together, we can't see those panels. So on paper, it should be as simple as, hey, tag the panels with RFID and then I can see it, right? But that's why our projects become more complex and interesting.
You also said something interesting I hadn't really thought of before, and Uh, before we started doing IoT together, you were really heavily into Oracle. You actually worked at Oracle for a while, right?
No,
Before
no, I didn't work at Oracle, but I was with Deloitte, but with doing Oracle,
Okay,
Oracle
got it. Got it.
implementations. Yes.
But one of the things Pia said and your client talked about was that in the first phase it wasn't connected to the back office systems, and only really that brought a huge improvement forward, and it sort of really makes sense. But it, I think, is one of those big things when we start small. We got to really decide what to do and how to really show the value.
Yeah, I mean, we started as we started as a proof of value. The whole our approach of the start small, scale fast. The client loved it so much they thought that is a production system. So it's interesting when you start as a proof of value, you don't have the discipline, the rigor, the connectivity with backend system because you're showing them value. And then one day they turn around, it's like, oh, I like it. I'm going to use it in production. Oh, so we quickly have to put the rigor in there. So we did 2 releases of this solution, and we're still trying to get our development, test, and production instances separate and put the rigor in there so that it doesn't. I mean, we have the code base and everything is right. So as part of that, yes, we initially said we're going to just load data manually or through Excel. And when the client loved the solution, that's like, okay, now we have to productionize it, which means go back to this backend and connect with that.
You brought up an interesting point that took track and trace to a whole different level, which was here at the conference, we have these tags that are also RFID, and there's antennas everywhere, and I see them, and it's not like hidden or anything, but I'm actually really curious. I'm assuming, first of all, they use AWS to track all of that. Do you have any insights in what they do and how they track? And I'm curious what you learned from tracking traffic and so forth.
Well, I don't know specifically what technology they are using, but I know that they're pretty much doing what we are doing, right? Which is process things on the edge and then send things in the cloud so that they can direct us or direct the traffic to the right place.
I saw something really interesting today, and I saw this in Barcelona at the IoT Solution World Congress as well, is they had video analytics. And what they did is you could see they had a monitor there. I saw someone, I think it was security, watching the monitor. And what was interesting actually is they weren't watching the faces or the people per se, but they overlaid it with simplified stick figures and so forth. And so there's a real movement to using video analytics for safety purposes, sort of like, analyze how people move and then learn from what that could mean, but also track where people move in terms of stick figures, because that sort of like deals with the whole privacy aspect. So.
Exactly. I mean, no, I haven't seen that yet. So now I'll watch out for it and see where they're doing it. But it is quite interesting, right? When you use those use cases, we were talking today in our one of our demos to I think the person was from CB Customs and Border Patrol, talking about use cases and hey, what could you do with camera and computer vision, and how could you process those images in real time rather than going back and having to look at a tape trying to figure out what happened.
So to close out your client story and maybe to sort of like look a little bit forward or kind of like expand from there, what did you learn out of the proof of value that sort of showed you limitations of processes or limitations of technology? Sort of like, what were you looking and said, well, I wish I had that?
So I'll say it's all 3 components: people, process, and technology. On the technology side, we learned that it is super difficult to really put these antennas at the right place and use the right technology so that you're constantly tracking with less noise and more signal, right? So on the technology. On the process side, we found out also how convoluted some of these processes were, how many moves they were making between machines that they didn't need to move. But now that we are tracking how the assets move, we could figure that out and go simplify that.
And it was a learning for them too?
It was a learning for them. They didn't realize how zigzag they moved through everything to get to the right place. But the biggest one I'll tell you is as with all transformation is the people, right? Everything works fine, but if people don't adopt and adapt the new process and this technology solution, it feels like it's a failure. So we had to switch things multiple times for the adoption. For example, we had not planned for folks to have an iPad or a tablet to go do some manual things, right? We had assumed this will be fully automated. People will swipe in their badges and will know exactly where they are and everything would happen. But that option was truly the one where there was a lot of lessons learned as to how we do it the next time.
So let's switch a little bit to here and what we introduced. It's not been just here, but we talked a lot about it, which is Smart Factory Fabric, SF2. What is it? What can you tell us about it? Give us a little bit of give us a teaser.
Teaser. I think I've said enough. There's not. There is. I mean, it's so. If you think about what the kind of work that we do and the clients that we serve and the kind of requirements that we're getting from our manufacturing clients, they have a lot of data, but they have very little insights. So what we are trying to do is use that data to transform their shop floor, make it smart as opposed to dumb, make it smart, make it more agile, make it more responsive. And how do we do that? I mean, it now with the advent of the cloud and the very low cost of compute and storage and the connectivity and how low latency, it is now possible, really possible, to collect vast amounts of data, process them very quickly at the edge and at the cloud, and then send something back into the physical world in the form of an alert, in the form of a message, in the form of a change, in the form of even shutting down a machine, right? So there are endless possibilities. So what we're doing with SF2 is that we're actually building a set of use cases on a very scalable AWS architecture, utilizing almost all native AWS applications, and it's going to be released in phases. In fact, next week at our leadership meeting in Wichita, you're going to see a demo of it. It's right off the sprint one completes on Wednesday, and we're going to do a demo on Thursday for that.
So by the time this airs, this might actually be 3 weeks ago. We're talking about this being released in portions already in December and January, right?
Yes, that will happen. And then by February or so, we plan to release everything. We release the whole set for kind of client.
And is this a solution? Is this an accelerator? How should I look at this as a client when I come to us with my mindset? I'd like to do this on AWS.
So this is somewhere between an accelerator and a product, right? It's not a product. You can just download it and plug it and it'll work. It's more than an accelerator in terms of just the methodologies and approaches and all. It's truly something that works as a solution. So we're calling it a solution.
It's true code. It's not just some vaporware or some slides.
Exactly.
It's truly code and so forth.
Exactly. So we are calling it a solution that will accelerate our client's transformation journey. The good thing is that it's very plug and play, right? We're not expecting the clients to replace their entire physical hardware, sensors, PLCs and all. It will connect with that. We are putting on top of it. What data they have, we are just ingesting the data and providing insights.
Do we have any sort of insights and goals? And so I come to us Deloitte now and say, I'd like to do this. We're going to start on January 1st. When am I going to see the first insights?
Like any consulting language, it depends.
It
Depends, right? How much volume
I'm not
of
gonna let
data.
you away with that though. Come on.
Yeah. So if you
Give
want,
me a feel. It doesn't have to. I'm not talking about days. I mean, just sort of like what are we talking about?
I would say in weeks you would be able to see insights. In weeks. Now, if you have a historical data which we can quickly ingest in probably in 3 to 4 weeks, we are able to even show you the trends and all historically. But just to have a machine visibility or material visibility, you would do that in a couple of weeks.
You talked about use cases. What are the use cases we're focusing? Oh my God, it's been a long day. What are the use cases we're focusing on first?
Yeah, in the first release, we're focusing on 7 use cases. If you think about the factory floor, there are 3 kinds of constraints that we see. It's people, material, and machine. So on the machine side, we're going to be providing the use case for machine monitoring and predictive maintenance of machine. On the people side, we are providing the capability of supervisors to assign crews to jobs, dynamically change routings of that. And then on the material side is track and trace. And then sitting over all of it is the dynamic scheduling algorithm that looks at these 3 constraints and then routes the order appropriately in the shop floor. And then we also have a command center, which actually gives you a 360-degree view of your plant.
So you said something today that I thought was super important and super interesting, and people forget about this. We are actually not just delivering use cases, but we're delivering use cases for different personas. And just to talk about what's a persona, what do you mean by that? It's such an important part of all these projects to think about personas. Give us a little bit of an insight.
Yeah, so look, the solutions, not all solutions are going to fit every person in the shop floor. If I'm a plant manager, or let's take it above, if I'm the VP of operations, I probably don't care about which one machine is not working properly for me. I would like to see statistics. I would like to see how's the operational efficiency of my plants, right? So you go from the top, and we are able to show you roll-up views by program or by location as to how your plants are doing. You go to the plant supervisor level, they're probably more interested in the command center view of the plant to say, okay, how is my entire plant and all assembly lines performing? So we have solutions for them too. Then you go down to the mechanic, they probably care more about their day, how their day is, what are they going to work on, what machines are working or not working. So they get a different set of tools to do that. So that's what I was mainly talking about with personas, is we are trying to cater to multiple groups of people and multiple personas in the factory floor, that to make their lives their lives easier.
So we're actually talking about 4 use cases to start with? Sorry, 4 personas?
Yes, we have 4 personas. We have the VP of production or something who would look across the plant. We have the plant manager who cares about the dashboard. We have the assembly line manager who's caring about all the machine performances and how the machines are doing. And then we have the line level, the actual worker on the floor, who would benefit from just knowing the alerts, just looking at the machine that they're working on, knowing what job they're going to be working on.
So I had an interesting conversation today with someone where the person said to me, you don't design and develop for someone, you design and develop with someone. Is this something we're doing? Are we developing with plant managers? Are we developing with shop floor workers?
We absolutely are. So, and this is where I think our experience, the Deloitte's experience, maybe it'll sound like a soapbox for Deloitte, but the Deloitte experience is a game changer for us. All the projects that we have done across the years, right? We have gained knowledge from how each one of these personas, what do they care about? What do they do? So we have gotten that, we're putting that into our solution, and we're actually testing it back with the various groups to see if it resonates with them. So absolutely, you're right. We're not doing it to them, we're doing with them.
So I don't know if you're the same, but what happens for me when I develop something that's as expansive as one of those solutions, 7 use cases to start with, 4 personas, I always find I have like 1 or 2 things that are like my pet peeves or my favorite ones, or the ones I really dive in on. If I'd ask your team, what would they say are your pet peeves in there?
I'm pretty flexible. I don't have a pet peeve, but I would say that to me, how you open this, how futuristic this looks, is very important, right? So you'll see that
Easy to use?
Easy to use is absolutely, do it more exception based. Don't show me everything, show me whatever. But I think the biggest one I'm stuck on is a big globe, a blue globe that you'll see that actually rotates, and you can see all the plants around the wall.
You have a little design thing in you.
Yeah, there's
something coming out I didn't know.
That was interesting. It's like, how do you, I mean, I can show all your plants on a flat map, right? And that has happened, and we have seen things. It's like, okay, how does this globe rotate, and how can I rotate it myself? How can I go change? So it's cool. I mean, I'm more on the user interface than the back end has to work, but the interface has to be interesting.
It's a good experience.
Yes, it's the experience, right?
That's awesome. I love that. I find myself spending time on that too, and it's kind of like, then my team gets to know. It's like, why do you care so much? It's like, there's an emotional aspect to that, right? There is an aspect I want to use it, and if I don't really emotionally relate to it, then I wouldn't use it. So
yeah, and it took me a while, because I come from the background of Oracle background. It's all transaction based. Nobody really cares about how the screens look. I can process
no people
my
care.
order.
We just don't really spend a lot of time on that.
It's like, hey, I can process my order. Yeah, I can process your order. Yeah, I don't like the screen. Too bad. You take what comes out and take it. So when I was looking at this and talking with the folks and the leadership here, it's like, okay, it does matter how this look and how easy it is to navigate, how easy is it to read. So that definitely is that whole human-centered design. Absolutely is helpful.
Do you actually, this is really interesting, right? I've always thought of this. I mean, I've spent my early parts of Deloitte with SAP, and it was very much like you said, right? It's all about how can I have the most efficient process for transacting? How quickly can I go through them? It wasn't about it looking good or being working. In the early days, it wasn't even a browser, right? It was kind of like, here is a GUI. So, and I always wondered how much of that attitude hurt adoption. I also, when I worked at Activision, we were an Oracle shop. When I interviewed for them the first time, they said, "You have a great resume, except can you do a replace all SAP with Oracle?" Which obviously I didn't, but so I have seen both. Do you think that hurt us in adoption and change management, that we actually couldn't do those things that we now care about, giving people a good experience, having it modern?
I think so. I've done many Oracle transformation, and some of those pet peeves of people are things like, hey, why can't I tab out of one? I need only 4 fields. Why are you showing me 20 others? Because I can't hide the other 20.
Or
Right,
it costs
which
a lot
means
of money to hide them, and it costs even more to change it after we hit
exactly, and then you're customizing it, which means that I have to tab through 20 fields to get to my 21st where I actually need to put in the information. Now, over time, these ERP providers have figured out a way of making it easier, but it's still not the same. And there's a cost and value thing, right? How much money do you put on customizing it for each client versus the value that you'll get? For us, as part of this fabric that we are building, I'm sure what I like, when I go to clients, they may not like it, and we may have to customize for them. So we'll see where that takes us.
So let's to close out. We've gone all around this. I'm really curious. You spent a lot of time in the ERP space, and then you joined Andy and I in the IT space. What were some of the surprises or unexpected things? And both the things that you thought, oh, that's great, and also the things that surprised you in a way, oh, that's a learning I didn't expect in that shift from one era to the other.
Okay, so the expected one was that, hey, look, I've never worked with AWS. I've worked with cloud. I've done cloud implementations, not with AWS. So I got to quickly come up the learning curve. The unexpected part was interesting. For me, supply chain was transactional. I always felt, how difficult can it be? How difficult can factories be? I'm already dropping orders onto the factory. I'm dropping bills of material, dropping routings. How difficult can it be? But that opened up a whole new world for me when I started looking at factories and machines and how they're connected and what happens on the shop floor. So that is a huge, much bigger learning curve right now for me than just learning AWS, which I'm more familiar with now than still trying to learn the vernacular of the factories.
So it's this sort of like, we both, the same for me, right? We both came out of a heavy IT background, information technology, and we really got sort of like pushed into the operational technology space. Yes. What are the things that you see and you learn from OT that you now incorporate into your day-to-day IT thinking, if you wish?
I mean, I'm able to connect the physical to the digital, which is a big thing for me. Right? A simple thing like I couldn't ever explain to my kids what I did. Yeah, I did something back end. What did you do actually? You created the order? No. I built the system. What is the system? Now when I talk to them and tell them this thing moves from here to here, you see that? I'm building the solution, the back end to track that digitally. So that is very important now. Now I'm able to at least explain to people what I do versus I did IT.
Well, I really appreciate our conversation here. It was nice sitting down and just chatting about the work we do in a setting like this, and sort of hear what we learn and so forth. So thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. It was really pleasure talking about this thing.
Thank you. And with that, we have another coffee chat coming to an end. If you missed any of today's show, any previous shows, please check out our playlist on YouTube and come back next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Coffee with Mr. IoT. To subscribe or to listen to more episodes, search for Coffee with Mr. IoT in your favorite podcatcher, or find us online at deloitte.com/US/Coffee with Mr. IoT. To watch the video version of our show, go to YouTube and search Coffee with Mr. IoT.